Hey tubers, welcome back for another adventure. I'd like to announce the first mega deal. So around me in the Hudson Valley, even if you want to travel 50-60 miles away from home base, there have been no deals unless you consider a Bayou 300. That's a shaft drive with a blown transmission for $700 a deal. Or a big red 250 that has no spark, and what they're known for back in '85 is shredding the stator and flywheel and so forth to lose spark, and they want $1,300 for it, right? Even if for $1,300 you could get it running, the three-wheeler, the Honda Big Red, was pretty trashed for $1,300, right? So there's just really nothing out there. So I was absolutely thrilled to find a mega deal. I spent $540 on 3 machines: that Kasea, this Honda TRX250, and this Suzuki LT160 motor. Came with the pipe and part of the ignition system, no carburetor. This is, while I'm standing here, let's talk about this one. This was off of a wrecked ATV. Somebody ran it into something, bent the frame, tore the front wheel off of it, trashed the plastics, right? Basically did a huge crunch here. Bent the bars, the steering stem, really destroyed it. So the person I got this motor from bought the entire all-terrain vehicle, didn't have the space to keep the all-terrain vehicle, so he pulled the motor and the exhaust and got rid of the rest of it. I kind of wish he kept the whole thing. About this motor, this is the way we got it. It was being stored outside, so hopefully it's not seized. I'm gonna deal with that separately. I'm only gonna spend a minute on the Honda. Once again, I didn't spend a lot of time with these, but it seems to have compression and it seems to turn, so I'm hoping for the best on this. I gotta love the hacking. I am going to spend a few minutes on the Cassia 400 ES look-alike. So from a distance, this thing looks like a 400 EX Honda TRX 400 EX. As you get closer, you realize it's a little bit smaller. I did some research on this thing. They started importing these in 2000, and to me it looks like it had the 150cc motor, the one that's a pushrod motor, 5-speed, hand clutch. Basically they stole a motor from a motorcycle and put it on these when they first built them. Back in the day, back in 2000, you could have bought this for $29.98, or you could have bought a Blaster for $29.99. Obviously, I personally would have jumped all over the Blaster rather than own this thing. The biggest problem, by the way, this thing is kind of a Blaster frame. I don't own a Blaster, but if you read the Dirt Wheels article, that's what they claim. Anyway, so it's kind of a Blaster frame with 400 EX copied. It's a clone of the Blaster frame with a clone of the 400 EX plastic. So that's kind of how you get to what this thing is, what you're looking at here. This came through without the motor. The motor was blown up. He pulled it off of here and disposed of it. I kind of wish he didn't do that also. I would have liked to get the motor. His investment in all these rigs, I think he said he paid $250 for this guy. I think he paid $200 for that guy and $200 for the wrecked LT160. So when he sold them all to me for $540, he did lose a little bit of money. His plan was to put the LT160 motor on this thing. Back to talking about this thing for another couple of minutes. The original one from 2000 had that push rod 150 cc 5-speed hand clutch motor, which makes this thing woefully underpowered. Shipping weight is over 300 pounds, plus given its size you could put an adult on there at another couple 150 to 200 pounds. So that 150 cc, even with a 5-speed gearbox, unless you wanted to use a lot of first gear to get up the big hills, there just wasn't much there. The other problem is, once again, with that 5-speed gearbox, as you're racing your buddy on the blaster, right, you do a downshift and, you know, feather the clutch a couple of times, gunning the engine up, and you dump it into a turn in a 150 4-stroke going through push rods and all for the valves. There just isn't much pep to the tires. So you weren't winning a race against a blaster. They did upgrade these things. The newer ones, the Skyhawk 170, I guess had a little more power to it, but the engine still was nothing to brag about. And they also kept the 150, but they put the GY6 motor into it. So that's the forward and reverse through a belt drive, a torque converter belt drive, which makes it a nice bike for a rider that doesn't ride often. The kind of bike you might buy your wife or girlfriend who doesn't drive standard. That way you got reverse, you got the torque converter. Hopefully she's a little bit lighter, so the 150cc motor is adequate for getting her everywhere she needs to drive this thing. They also criticize the suspension a little bit, but if you put a decent set of shocks on it, it probably would get around most of their suspension criticisms. What am I going to do with it? As I was first looking at it, I was thinking, you know, for its part of the 540, I was getting a real decent set of tires, and if I kind of yank this off, it's falling off anyway, right? I got a set of plastics that look a little bit like a 400EX for a project, you know, kind of sport bike plastics that maybe I could hack onto a machine like this. On average, I buy about 2 bikes, 3-wheelers, 4-wheelers per month during the year. So I've picked up January's units, so to speak. My plans are to really try to get the Wilderness Trail 90. I really want to get an engine swap done on that before I bite into these too much. Though, like with this guy, I would like to get it started, or at least turn it over, make sure I got no clangs and bangs. Same with the, I'd like to actually get that LT160 motor running so that I could figure out what I'm going to do with it. If the LT160 motor runs, for anybody who's bought a motor lately, it will pay off most of this deal. For anybody who's bought one of these rigs lately, if it starts, runs, excuse me, and moves, it will have paid off most of its value also. So look at that, gas cap didn't fall off. Actually, it doesn't look half bad. So that's what I'm thinking. Well, that's not even half bad. Yeah, I have high hopes for these projects. This guy came through without a seat. I don't know. He might have sold some parts off of it. He was a hustler. He wanted to make a bunch of deals. These were not on Facebook all that long before I got them. But he kind of stuck to me a little bit when it came to selling them. So I don't think he had a lot of offers for the three of them. As a matter of fact, I don't think he had any. You can kind of tell if somebody's got a lot of bites. You know, they don't rush to get back to you. They take their time responding to your questions and so forth, right? They're trying to get the easiest deal, right? That's why you'll kind of know if you live in the Hudson Valley if you're dealing with me, because I say right up front, you know, I have a truck and I have money. So I could afford this deal, right? It kind of cuts out all the 11-year-olds who need to borrow $500 from their father and, you know, borrow a truck from an uncle and get him to drive them there to go pick it up, right? You have somebody who could show up immediately, come get the stuff and, you know, get it off your property. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I need you all to keep your feet down, your heads up, and I want you all to get out there and have a great day. It's 2023, and let's all make the most of it. Bye now.